You're that's completely fine. I'll tell you what, with Brian Beech, without question, the most intense individual I have ever had the experience of seeing in the ring, up close, in person. His intensity level was completely off the charts.
Completely old school. Dude had an old school mentality, from being in the ring, being in the back of the locker room. I mean, the dude had one level that he went at, and that was 100% tuned up.
Yes.
I mean, who you seen Brian Beech in the ring, that's how that dude was. Straight up, 100%.
And that's
actually, thinking back on that, I miss the dude just because the tenacity, the intensity that he brought to the table. I miss seeing.
Well, with Beech, Beech did something for you that has been very difficult for a lot of other competitors to do, and this is something that you and I haven't even talked about, but now that it's coming up here, it makes perfect sense. In that, going back to where we started in our conversation on this episode of Radio Dark, we talked about the fact that, your upbringing is a little bit different. You're operating on a little bit different of a frequency, throughout you growing up and into your young adulthood and to now. There are certain parts of your personality and who you are that, whether it be advertently or inadvertently, you've had to dial those back and dial those down to be able to survive in day-to-day society. So, in regards to pro wrestling, in regards to the wrestling industry, that's carried over with you. Because the reality is that you have that level of intensity within you. You have just had such a difficult time over the years suppressing all of that to get along with the common Joes and Joannes of the society and the world, that sometimes it's hard to really pull that out of you, and Beech did tenfold.
Yeah.
He was able to help you release that inner self, that shadow self, the version of you that you have kept hidden and tucked away, that has had to suffer in the shadow of this pretense of what you have to be able to get through your normal day. So, Beech served an incredibly important purpose, but also, to touch on Beech, Ripper Blackhart. I can't have a conversation involving professional wrestling having anything to do with FGW without having to bring up Ripper Blackhart, who inevitably is always the root cause for so much pain, heartache, misery, grief. So this whole thing, this whole situation with you and Beech was because of Ripper Blackhart. And Ripper Blackhart is massively responsible for so many things, but in regards to Beech, he knew Beech wasn't 100% going into We Got Heat. He was so hungry to get his hands on championship gold that he sacrificed his main client just so he could say that for a fleeting moment he managed the FGW heavyweight champion. And you, Scotty Amos, even though you were seen as the quote-unquote villain that evening, you actually were a savior. You were an angel of sorts, because you knew that if Beech was left unattended, that regardless of what he said on the microphone that evening, he would have came back. He would have risked his physical well-being, and you, being a true competitor and a kind-hearted soul, took it upon yourself to put that wounded animal out of its misery. So you did what you had to do at the conclusion of that event, and Beech was no more for FGW. On that same night, go ahead.
I simply gave him that sunset to ride out of. There's no reason for him to come back after that. You got what you wanted, and to become that FGW champion and walk out like that, I did him a favor by allowing him to go out on top. Yes.
You know, the only thing that...
nobody sees it that way, and that's the aggravation.
No, and you know what? Another thing from that night that really sticks in my craw, Scotty, is the fact that when Brian Beech relinquished the FGW championship that night, the very first person who should have been crowned champion after that took place was you. You should have been the FGW heavyweight champion simply because the reason why Brian Beech relinquished the title to begin with was because of the pain, agony, and suffering that you had bestowed upon him. Look at the numbers. I mean, look at the statistics. I never lost to Brian Beech, okay? I've never had an FGW championship opportunity. These are all facts. You know, Logan Blackhart, the first FGW champion. Where's he at right now? He's gone. Zeta tournament, I put him out. Done. Mitch Magnus, one of the longest reigning FGW champions there is. What happened? He and I had a rivalry, and I'm 3-2 on him, but yet no opportunities for me. That's the shitty part about this whole corporate bullshit with FGW. You know, they don't give anybody or somebody that's deserving like myself an opportunity, and the politics, and flat out, that's the reason you and I actually hooked up, is because you are good with the politics part. You know how to I wouldn't say manipulate. You know how to work to where it makes sense, to where you put me in front of the suit and ties, I'm going to flat out tell you how I feel, and which is not necessarily what they want to hear in the choice of words that I usually have to say, but that's where I brought you on, and still to this day. Well, I specialize in the art of negotiation, and then on top of that, when I first came into the mix, it in many ways was to help neutralize the negative outside influence of people like Ripper Blackheart. But then as time went on, it also, became a situation of trying to make sure that your best interests were served with, FGW's owner Brian Levick and the championship committee, and the fact of people like Mitch Magnus ducking and dodging and avoiding facing you one-on-one for championship title opportunities. I mean, that wasn't by coincidence or happenstance, because he knew, Brian knew, all of FGW knew that a one-on-one fair fight, a fair championship title match between you and Mitch Magnus, or honestly you and whoever happens to be champion at any given time, you would have been champion. So beyond Brian Beech, you sent him packing, completely eliminated from Future Great Wrestling. Then, you and I both are straddled with that, how can I describe it? He's dangerous in the ring. He's dangerous in the ring, but he absolutely has a skull made of just cement, just a lunkhead, because he just doesn't listen. And that being one William Wolf. So we went from Brian Beech, and then we started a situation with William Wolf that rapidly escalated because he simply just wanted to mock and belittle. And we eventually finally had enough, and we took matters into our own hands, with Ripper Blackheart once again stirring the pot and the whole situation. But Scotty, if you would, talk about the rivalry and the altercations, the infamous bat attack that happened to William Wolf.
What's there to say? That's the defining moment of FGW. I mean, that one baseball bat shot to the head. I mean, that's the most fun FGW has had. brought the fans the most over individual that FGW has ever seen. That's Billy. And, I mean, you're welcome. I don't know what else you want me to say about that. I actually like Bill. He got on my nerves most of the time, but, deep down, I could actually say I enjoyed Billy's company. I enjoyed coloring with him. I enjoyed, teaching him some wrestling holds, as he called it. I mean, that's...
Well, this was about the time when you and I were still on the same page, but things were beginning to become a little rocky, because
in both defenses, I think that you were wanting to protect me, but I mean, you don't have any kids. I mean, that was your opportunity to have a little kid. I mean, I understand.
It was terrible.
I'm not
it was
mad at
no. That listen. Just to be clear on this, and we're brothers, we're friends, we're business partners.
Okay.
The whole reason, the deal with William Wolf from the get-go, abrasive, antisocial, mocked us week after week after week. We went to his home to teach him a lesson. He still didn't learn after we beat him within an inch of his life in the basement of his own home. He still didn't get it.
Allegedly.
Well, yes, allegedly. You're absolutely right. Absolutely right. That's what the dirt sheets say, but that's word on the street, but that'll never hold up in a court of law. So
there's no proof.
Absolutely no proof. All of it's been deleted. I mean, I don't know what happened to it. But beyond that point, you finally have the match, and William Wolf pulling shenanigans, tomfoolery, and, a bat happened to get into your hand, and things happen. William Wolf took the most sickening shot to the skull that FGW fans have ever seen. And from a business standpoint, I knew that we had to troubleshoot the situation. We had to make sure that things didn't escalate. From a financial standpoint, from a lawsuit standpoint, from a physical altercation standpoint. So I took it upon myself, thinking of the best interests of you and all of Darkness Worldwide. I took it upon myself to... You see, I did one of those Ancestry.com forms. You go and you find out your family tree, because I'm interested in things such as that, and I saw on Ancestry.com that I couldn't even believe it. I was shocked to find out that somehow, some way, William Wolf's family lineage and mine somehow crossed, and in a very strange, bizarre, backwoods, Ohio meets New York kind of ways, I realized and discovered that I was a distant uncle of William Wolf. So I went to the hospital, primarily thinking of you and Darkness Worldwide, and myself, of course. But I wanted to make sure that my nephew, William Wolf, and for any of you doubting that, shut your mouths. It's true. You saw it on weekly episodes of Shockwave. So I got him out of the hospital, and I tried to make sure that he was okay and that he didn't remember right away anything that happened, because I didn't want him to be traumatized. I cared. The man, allegedly took a baseball bat to the side of the head. I was concerned about his well-being, about his health.